Welcome everybody to the Red G Fox channel. Thank you for clicking on this video and joining us today. So before you go, what the heck is this guy talking about, or what is this channel about? If you're new, Red G Fox, it's a take on obviously Red Fox, and this channel is all about Sanford and Son, as you can see. But today, I had to bring in a little bit of basketball as we compare one of the greatest, if not greatest, shows in television history, led by the iconic Red Fox as Fred Sanford, to the greatest, possible greatest basketball team we know with one of the greatest of all time, most feel is, and that is the GOAT, Michael Jordan, and the Chicago Bulls, the 90s Bulls. How do you get to these two? Because on one hand, you got led by Michael Jordan, multiple MVPs, multiple championships, finals MVPs, endorsements, his own shoe, all these things, and you go, well, how does that compare to Sanford and Son? Well, let me try to make a small point because something came up recently with a lot of the things we've been going on over on our channel that made me say, you know what? Everything that's happening in Sanford and Son reminds me of something. So let's get to the how do I get to this point and this whole debate on this topic to begin with. So with the Jordan, you had, like I mentioned, MVPs. What was it? He had 6 NBA championships, 5 NBA MVPs. As we get to Sanford and Son, you have Fred Sanford listed as one of the top TV dads all time in TV Guide. The actor Red Fox, right? He led that. He inspired others such as Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy. It's 2 of the greatest comics to ever live. And just like Jordan led to inspiration to guys like LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. So you have 2 organizations led by 2 guys who are probably at the peak of their careers and still legends all these years later. So we have that. They're kind of the head of the show, the head of the team, running everything. As you look at Sanford and Son, Red Fox had a lead role in a top 10 TV show during its first 5 seasons, including multiple one of the elites. The show was so good that it drove the Brady Bunch off the air. So Brady Bunch was it wasn't the best show, right, on TV, but it was a very memorable and popular show. Sanford and Son, at its height, on Friday nights, beat them week in and week out, and finally had to end the Brady Bunch. And if you know anything about Chicago Bulls, the Detroit Pistons had a 2-peat and were looking to go for a 3-peat as they had to deal. They had their own dynasty going. And who took them out? The Chicago Bulls ended that and won 3 in a row. Then you got the Rockets. They won a couple in a row. And who ended that? The Chicago Bulls. So the Bulls are ending teams' dynasties while Sanford and Son is ending other shows that were popular, getting them off the air. Small comparison, but you can see my point. Besides being led by 2 of the greatest people of all time. Let's get to some achievements, right? We talked about the Bulls, back 2 3-peats, and the Jordan and all those things. What the heck happened to Sanford and Son? Let's see some of the things they accomplished. Time magazine listed the show as one of the top 100 of all time. Do you know how many thousands and thousands of shows there is? And just like the Bulls are listed as one of the top teams, Sanford and Son listed as one of the top TV shows of all time. Fred Sanford, 3-time Emmy, and those Emmy Awards, I know they're not Academy Awards, but they're big time for television. 3-time Emmy Award nominations as a lead. He also got 3 Golden Globe nominations, including a winner in 1973. So he's won it. He's got hardware, he's got representation, he's got acknowledgement, and being on the biggest show, like I said, number 2 for several years. We'll cover some of those. Sanford Show was also got 1 nomination for Golden Globe. Grady, remember him, Grady Wilson? He got nominated for Golden Globe as well. So we had not just Fred, but also Grady. They won it in 1973. Then they got the Image Award, Fred Sanford. That show won the Image Award. And Online Films TV Association in 2017 put Sanford and Son in the Hall of Fame when it comes to television. We know Jordan's in the Hall of Fame. Duh, that's obvious. But those are some of the accomplishments Sanford and Son did. There's a few others as well, but those are some of the main ones. So Golden Globes, Emmys. Now, a lot of them they got nominated and didn't win. It's much harder to win that, I think, when there's so much competition. But we still saw Sanford and Son, including Fred Sanford, win awards and did so much for his career. Now, Jordan, we've seen that. Everything he won, we know everything that, to this day, he's still out there making millions just on his shoe deal. That's how outstanding he was. Now, one thing I wanted to compare, what really drew the comparison, right? Because I got to feel Jordan's on another level, but both are iconic. Both are Hall of Famers when it comes to their position. Is the core behind Michael Jordan. Let's look at some of these players who are behind Jordan. You had Paxton, Armstrong, Horace Grant, King, Cartwright. Tony Kukoc came right after Jordan left, but he was there when they came for the other three-peat. And then, of course, Scottie Pippen. He is his top guy, right? His right-hand man, the guy who did all the dirty work and was up there near all the Jordan stats. So you look at that and you go, yeah, Jordan is the GOAT. He carried them that first time. But when he retired for those 2 seasons and left, those Bulls went from 57 wins to 55 wins. And now before you say, oh, it's 2 wins, yes, the Bulls did not win a championship without him. They needed him. They needed Jordan. I agree. But they were a bad call away from making the NBA Finals again, even without Jordan. So what does that say? That went on to show a lot of people, hey, you know what? This Bulls team maybe is pretty good. Even without their leader, they are pretty freaking good. And that brings us to Sanford and Son. There was a time in season 3, which by the way was one of the highest. I think it was the 3rd overall show in television that year. One of the top shows in TV. Remember, in television, you got hundreds of shows. NBA, you got at that time, I think it was 28 teams. Could have been 30, probably 28. It's a big difference, right? Smaller, more intense competition. But you got thousands and thousands of shows going on. Or probably hundreds because of the smaller TV market. But it was one of the top shows at that time. Fred Sanford, Red Fox, was gone for 7 episodes in season 3, and Grady took over. Grady, I would say, is the Scottie Pippen of Sanford and Son. We know it's Fred and Lamont. They run it. But with Fred gone, just like Jordan was gone, you can even say Lamont was, but Grady or Lamont, they took over, and then we got to see episode after episode of great writing, great acting, great supporting cast. Pippen, Grant, Armstrong, those kind of guys that we said, hey, they're pretty good. You stopped and said, hey, you know what? They're really good. They're really good once Jordan wasn't around. You saw how well they played as a team and a unit and how good they still did in the playoffs and how close they came. In season 4, Fred was gone again. And one of the top-rated episodes of Sanford and Son, it's probably in the top 15 of all time, was led by Grady. It wasn't even Red Fox. He wasn't even there. And that was the season 4 was number 2 in the ratings, even better. And season 3, remember how it ended? The last 7 episodes were all Grady. So the point is, I think when this comes down to it, it's that you had 2 great organizations, 2 great things in their craft, in their entertainment, in their field. And when both of the leaders left, you still saw, not that they excelled and were better, but you said, hey, they didn't sink. They might have not achieved the top, but they didn't drop. And that goes to show that the Chicago Bulls and Sanford and Son are almost so similar in the fact that both their leaders were Hall of Famers, but even when they weren't there, the ship was still sailing straight, which tells me maybe some of the credit should be given to the cast, not so much Fred Sanford, not so much Michael Jordan, that it should be given to the core of guys from Pippen to Armstrong to Paxton to Grant to Grady to Esther to Lamont to Woody to Rollo, Smitty and Hoppy. When you stop and realize it and go, because people will go, oh, Sanford and Son, yeah, Fred Lamont, and then and Esther. Man, there is so much other stuff below there that we just did a tournament where we went best one and done. Every single character in there is like, wow, if they were live now and they just filmed that on TV, we would walk by and they'd be celebrities because you were on one of the biggest shows where 15, 16 million each week were watching them. And that's how good they were. And I think myself guilty, I can't speak for everybody, but myself guilty, at times I would stop and go, oh yeah, man, Red Fox, Fred Sanford, he did it all. And, I like Lamont and I love Grady and I love Esther, but it's Fred, and it is Fred. But when he steps away, you go, it's Fred. But the writing and that core, man, they really did pick up the slack and made Sanford and Son the Chicago Bulls of the 70s. Of the 90s, but in the 70s, Sanford and Son. That's how good they were. So in the end, that's my whole point. Is that I realized how good the cast was when I started this channel, and more than I ever did before. When you break it down to where you go, hey, Leroy and Skillet only in 5 episodes. What? I feel like they were in 20 episodes. Remember, there's 136 and only 5. But Leroy and Skillet were so impactful on their moments that we came to love them. We came to go, man, yeah, they hit those big moments. And then same with Achu, same with Julio, same with all the other characters that you go, hey, Smitty and Hoppy. I think Smitty, what was he in 20 episodes out of 136? Somewhere in that range. But it felt like so much more. And I think that's when I said, this supporting cast is one of the best in television history. And they are so deep. They are so deep that you don't even realize it till you actually dig down and get in there. And that was the whole thing with Chicago Bulls, something I've always talked about. I have a sports channel. I kind of killed it. I don't really do anything on that anymore. But I used to break down Michael Jordan and LeBron James, all sorts of sports, but that was on there. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to talk about that, how they are similar and how it just hit me last week. And so that's the point of this. I hope you enjoy. Comment below. Do you agree? Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you say, yeah, you know, I can see it. I can see the comparison, how they each have a GOAT, right? The greatest of all time at the lead. And yet, maybe at the time, the cast wasn't given its due, right? They weren't given the credit they should have been given. And now, years later, or maybe even after they left, people said, you know what? Maybe they are pretty dang good. Maybe that cast around them, that core around them is pretty dang good. And so I just wanted to point that out. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great weekend. And we will talk again soon. We'll have a live show coming up. I want to say possibly Saturday night we could do a live show where we're going to watch an episode together, where I watch it here and you watch it from your streaming device or DVD player, and then we chat and laugh about it. And then we'll have a nice conversation afterwards about some topics. So have a great night. Hopefully I'll see you then, and be safe. Talk to you later. Peace.